Many people think that the kingdom of God is not a place, is a place where there is no suffering, there is only happiness. And there are those of us who think that the Pure Land is a place where there is no suffering. If you have a beautiful garden, and if you are the gardener, you know that in your garden there are flowers, of course, but there are garbage also. Because if there are flowers, there must be garbage. Flowers are to become garbage. But you don't mind, because you know that garbage can be transformed back into flowers. Without garbage, there is no flower. Without suffering, there can be no happiness. Can you imagine a place where there is only happiness? Can you imagine a garden where there is only flower, and this flower never become garbage? You must agree with the fact that in the kingdom of God, there is a compassion and understanding, love. In the Pure Land of Buddha also, there is a compassion, understanding, forgiveness. But let us ask the question as, with what substance we fabricate compassion and joy and forgiveness? The quality of a Buddha, of a great being, is understanding and compassion. Let us ask the question, how can we cultivate understanding and compassion? Understanding and compassion are the two most precious flowers. It's very clear that everyone is able to see that if you do not understand suffering, you can never cultivate compassion and understanding. It is by getting in touch with suffering that you bring about understanding and compassion. If you have no chance to get in touch with the suffering, how can you cultivate understanding and compassion? So, the flower of understanding and compassion is made with the garbage of suffering. It is by touching the suffering, it is by getting in touch with suffering that we have a chance to understand the nature of suffering, that you can bring about understanding and compassion. And therefore, suffering is very, very crucial, very necessary for us to cultivate understanding and compassion. Do you want to send your children to a place where there is no suffering? In that place, he or she will never have a chance to learn how to be understanding and compassionate. Because understanding and compassion are born on the ground of suffering. And you know it by yourself. And that is why my definition of the kingdom of God is not a place where there is no suffering. I would not go to a place where there is no suffering. I have no chance to cultivate my understanding and compassion. I refuse to go to such a place. And such a place can never exist. It's like a garden that have only flower, and the flower never turn back into garbage. This is absurd. This is impossible. My understanding of the kingdom of God is that is a place where there is understanding and compassion. And if there is compassion and understanding, there is also the other side of it, suffering. That is a place where people know how to transform suffering into understanding and compassion. In the Pure Land also, there are bodhisattvas who master the art of transformation. So you can bring your suffering over there. They will help you to transform. It is with this element of suffering that you can cultivate compassion and understanding. So thinking of the kingdom of God as a place where there is no suffering is a very naive idea. Thinking of the Pure Land of Buddha as a place where there is only happiness, no suffering, is a very absurd, naive idea. And that is why it's better to define the kingdom of God as a place where there is a plenty of chance to learn, to understand suffering, so that we can cultivate our understanding and compassion. And there are Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, angels who know how to do it and who teach us how to do it. And we are no longer afraid of suffering because we have mastered the art of transforming suffering into understanding and compassion. In the teaching of the Buddha, it is by looking deeply into the nature of suffering, the first noble truth, that you have a chance to see the path of transformation and healing, which is the fourth noble truth, Magga, the path. The fourth noble truth is the path of transformation. And if you try to run away from the first noble truth, there's no chance for you to see the fourth noble truth. And the first noble truth, the fourth noble truth, they inter-are. Without one, there is no other. That is the teaching of interbeing. That is why we practitioners, we should not be afraid of suffering. We should be able to face suffering, to embrace suffering, to look deeply into the nature of suffering. And then understanding suffering bring about the path of transformation and healing. Running away, trying to run away from suffering, you have no chance.